We're going to get started. So welcome to a TCC Masterclass. And it is really, really great to see everybody. We have our newest member, Abby Rebello, whose father, Dr. Rebello, did our last Masterclass. So I love it. So welcome, Abby. We're very, very excited to have you. I'm actually going to switch over to speaker view. And let me get some housekeeping done first. So for those of you that are new to this format, these are very informal, and they incorporate about a half an hour of Chaunte and I chatting and me asking her some questions and getting caught up. And then we leave the last half hour for you guys to ask her anything that you want. And the cool part is you get to ask your question directly to Chaunte. So the way that it works is just put in the chat that you have a question. Don't put your question in the chat. Just say, I have a question, and we'll put you in the queue, and Kathy will send that to me, and then we will call on you, and hopefully we have time for everybody. We do have a couple master classes coming up. So October 12th, we have Merrill Hodge. Merrill, for those of you who are younger, you may know him from kind of a legendary career at ESPN. For those of you who are a little bit older, you might know him as a phenomenal running back for the Chicago Bears and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is a crazy busy time of year for Merrill. So although he has committed to the masterclass on October 12th, I am still going to double and triple check to make sure he doesn't pull a Robert Hamilton Owens. Oh, that was an unnecessary shot. Wow. And then we have on November 9th, we have Brian Scudamore. Brian is the CEO of O2 Brands, which is nearly $1 billion business based in Canada, best known for one of their biggest franchise in O2 Brands, which is 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which he's built to a massive company. Brian is just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful person. So those are the next two master classes. I do have a surprise announcement. Kathy doesn't even know that I'm going to do this. So you guys are the first to know that the fourth book for charity and all of the proceeds are going to Blankets of Hope. And Nick is on the call. Nick is the founder of Blankets of Hope. Standing O Tribute is officially out today. You can go on Amazon and purchase your copy of Standing O Tribute. Brandi Chastain, two-time World Cup champion, two-time Olympic gold medalist, wrote the cover quote. And we have 42 incredible authors that have written chapters in Standing O Tribute. So we really want to raise a lot of money and raise a lot of awareness for Blankets of Hope. They do an incredible job. So we're excited to announce, if you go on Amazon, you can purchase your copy of Standing O Tribute. And then another surprise that Kathy does not know about is Chaunte wrote a chapter in Standing O Encore. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give everybody on this call an autographed copy from Chaunte to everybody on the call. So all you need to do is send Kathy your mailing address, and we're going to send you an autographed copy from Chaunte of Standing O Encore, and you can read her incredible chapter. So really excited about that. Without any further ado, today we really have the honor of having, I've said this many times, she's one of my favorite people on the planet, Chaunte Lowe. For those of you who don't know, she's a 4-time Olympian. She's a medalist. She's the American record holder. I think she's a 3-time world champion medalist. She's a 12-time US national champion. She's a mother of 3 incredible kids. And she is just one of the brightest, most beautiful spirits I've ever met. And I'm incredibly grateful to have her on and for you guys to get to learn her story and hear a little bit about her life and what has made her such an unbelievable person. So with all of that, with 12 national champions and 4-time Olympians and all that, you might think, boy, things probably come pretty easy to Chaunte. But like most high achievers, they have to fight through adversity to get where they wind up. And nothing ever comes easy. So Chaunte is also a cancer survivor, and she's also a COVID survivor. So her life, really from the beginning, she's had obstacles to overcome. And in the last couple of years, she's had some doozies. And we're going to talk about that because I believe that resiliency is a life skill that you can hone and that you can get better and better at. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of your happiness and your joy can come from knowing that you have the ability to bounce back, that you have that resiliency because you've overcome other things in your life. And I can't think of many other great examples of resiliency than Chaunte. So Chaunte, welcome. We're excited to have you. And let's start off. Let's talk a little bit about these last couple of years. Holy mackerel.
That's an understatement. Holy mackerel. It's like holy salmon.
Yeah. So tell us what the last couple of years have been like for you after, 4 Olympics, and some of the tell everybody some of the challenges that you faced and overcome.
Yeah. So first I want to say thank you for having me. You could be spending your day with anyone else besides me. So I'm so incredibly honored, and thank you for inviting me. And please tell Meg I said hello. But yeah, in 2016, I was awarded the bronze medal for the 2008 Olympics. And that is not a mistake. I was rewarded the medal 8 years later because of doping violations of other athletes. And when I received that medal, I felt like that was it. Like, this is my moment. This is the defining moment of my entire life. I can go somewhere on an island with a non-alcoholic drink and some vegan food and just spend the rest of my days. And in 2018, I found a lump in my breast just from doing self-breast exams. I was told by the doctor, it's not cancer, it's just a lymph node. Don't worry about it. Come back in 6 years. And after that, I was like, okay, good, this is good. It's not cancer. Turns out a year later, it was breast cancer. And so I had to end up having a double mastectomy and chemotherapy. But, just as Scott was saying before, there's always an opportunity to grow in resiliency. And I saw that as an opportunity to take on something very difficult, but I don't know if Scott wants to talk about it himself. And yeah.
Go ahead.
So that's
yeah,
what
go ahead. You can talk. Your story is amazing. So
okay.
Go right ahead.
So in getting the breast cancer diagnosis, obviously I was devastated. I was impacted with triple negative breast cancer, which is the most aggressive form of breast cancer that predominantly impacts African-American women. And in my studies and learning about the disease and trying to put myself in the best statistical likelihood of surviving, I discovered that African-American women were 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than our white counterparts, and that there is a staggering, mouth-dropping statistic that 1 in 8 women in their lifetime would be diagnosed with breast cancer. And then I learned that men get breast cancer. So I'm just like being bombarded with what seems to be negative information. And I'm sitting here with all this. It's like, what am I going to do with this information? I am, feeling ill from chemotherapy. I'm having these surgeries that's taking parts of my body away. I'm feeling like I'm no longer the Superman for my kids. And I'm looking at what I do have. What I do have is an ability to train. I know how to make Olympic teams. I know how to be an athlete. And if I could somehow utilize that to do good for others, I wanted to do so. So I decided to train for my 5th Olympic team during chemotherapy, during the COVID pandemic, during a double mastectomy, because I wanted to bring awareness surrounding breast cancer and utilize the Olympic media conglomerate as a tool to be able to get this information out there to people. And I felt so much joy and so much love and so much fulfillment by taking on something that was normally a selfish task of trying to get medals for myself, to then putting my body through the stress and the training and the hard work for other people. And it was the most beautiful experience that I've ever accomplished. I did not make my 5th Olympic team. However, we reached over 300 million people with that message. And so I'm so excited to be here today to be sharing it with you guys.
Amazing. Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that journey from watching you train and watching you on Instagram and having phone conversations with you while you were going through chemo and training was just mind-blowing. So the Olympics get delayed.
Yes.
And then what happens?
So as and you have been there from the beginning. I remember, I think it had to be the week or day of my diagnosis. And you were like, you didn't know what was going on. And I told you, and you're like, you don't have to worry about writing the chapter. And because of what you're doing out there in the world and this group and people who care about other people, I felt so compelled to be a part of that. And I remember when you guys had the launch party in New York and you guys made that video for me, it fueled me and it pushed me to keep going. And so when I saw the good that you guys were doing, it inspired me even more to really get out into the community and do amazing things. And I just felt like when the Olympics was delayed, I always saw these things as an opportunity. Okay, well, now we have more time to spread this message and ride this media train a little bit longer. And I think that in any type of adversity, you have a choice on how you're going to view it. You have a decision to make if you're going to allow it to negatively impact your life or positively impact your life. And I think that when the Olympics got delayed and when we had to start training at home and, I had to find ways to make it a positive.
And how do you mentally not get down in the dumps and turn negatives into positives? Is it just like a muscle? It's just it's the repetition of consistently flipping the script?
It is. I kind of liken it to when you learn how to drive. You have to think left. All right, this pedal is the accelerator. This pedal is the brake. Okay, the blinker's over here. Nope, that's the windshield wiper. You have to think about everything, when you're first starting. And eventually it gets to the point where it becomes second nature. So in the beginning, when you're first practicing resiliency or practicing seeing, and they say it in such a negative term, seeing everything with a rosy colored lens. But when you're choosing to see life and view it in a certain way, it's hard at first because, getting cancer stinks. The COVID pandemic stinks. The hunger that people face in the world, it's all awful. But cancer stinks. But now that I would have been impacted myself, my eyes are open to the suffering that other people have. And I can figure out a way to connect these people to resources. That's a positive. During the COVID pandemic, we are we're separated. We weren't able to be around each other the way that we wanted to. But now, through technology and means like this, we are actually communicating and becoming closer and meeting more frequently than we have before. And even it's just, when you see a problem, if you think of it as a way to find, or as a opportunity to find a solution, you're not looking at your problems as stopping points. You're looking at them as challenges, a way to gain additional wisdom, and then a way to move forward and make the world better. And so that's how I see everything.
So as you're training through chemo and you're getting ready for the Olympics, and you can't train traditionally because you have a compromised immune system, so you can't be around other people. So you've got to figure out all these different ways to do what you would normally do. And as the Olympics grow closer, you get COVID.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
How devastating was that for you?
I think initially it was extremely devastating. I had the opportunity to get the vaccine on Wednesday, and my schedule was just too busy because I was running around with kids. I was training for the Olympics. I had COVID by Friday. And I was planning on going on Monday, and I wish that I had. And the thing that was scary for me was not necessarily myself, but all of my kids also had COVID as well. So they brought it home from school. And I'm worried about my life because my immune system was very low. Then my husband, he's actually the one who had the most severe symptoms. And then I'm worried about the lives of my children. And so in that moment, it wasn't the devastation of the loss of the Olympics. It was an opportunity to put life into perspective and see what's really, really important. And in that moment, I understood what so many other people were suffering throughout the entire world, the fear, and it gave me a better grasp on it. So now when I go and I do my speaking engagements, or I talk to different groups and I try to encourage them in resiliency, I have a very profound understanding of what they're going through and what we're all going through together. And yes, I wanted to get to the Olympic Games, and yes, I wanted to be there and be with my team. But for the first time in my adult life, I actually watched the Olympics and it was fantastic. So I start looking at the positives in the situation, and I realize that we are the authors of our own story. We're the one who defines whether or not the mission or the goal was a success. And the goal wasn't to get medals. It wasn't even really to compete at the Olympic Games. The goal was to get the information out there about early detection and breast cancer awareness, and that was accomplished. And so when I step back and say, evaluate the process and see if the goal was fulfilled, it was, even more than I could have even imagined. So I'm not upset about that.
You have just such this bright spirit to you, and your ability to flip the script and look at things positively is amazing. Tell us a little bit about, so that just didn't happen by accident. Tell us about younger Chaunte growing up long before Olympic glory.
Yeah, I could take it back to a specific story. When I was in 4th grade, I wanted to play soccer with my friends. They were on a soccer team. I asked them at school if I could be part of their team. After school, they said, yeah, our team practice is at the park. And the park just happened to be up the street from my house. I didn't tell my mom because I knew we didn't have the money or anything. So I walked up to the soccer field on my own. And I just got in line and I started practicing with the other kids. And the coach pulled me out and he said, you can't practice with us because you don't have money. And I was devastated. I was embarrassed. And I went over to the sideline and I was hiding in the trees. I was just, I would still wanted to watch the team, but I knew I was not welcome to participate. And then I got mad. And I was like, you know what? This is a public park. You can't tell me what I can do. I was like, you can't stop me from looking. You can't stop me from learning. You can't stop me from getting better by watching you. You can't stop me from emulating you over here in the trees. And when I learned that, it was like a switch flipped where every bad situation doesn't have to be a bad situation. You could look for the good within that situation. And it took a bit of daily maintenance. And I think people think of it as, something that either is going to acquire simultaneous or spontaneously over time, or something that is just going to happen in one big moment. And it's not. It takes practice of doing it every single day. So whenever I have a problem, I don't like to go to sleep with the problem. I like to try to find a solution or a way to look at it from a different angle before I go to sleep. And every single day, I take time out of my day to do something that genuinely makes me feel good. And I use the term makes your heart smile, but essentially it's something that brings me joy, peace, happiness, on purpose. We schedule in, brushing our teeth, we schedule in washing our face, we schedule in going to work, but we do not schedule in our mental health. And my daily mental health is a maintenance that I take very seriously. And so, yeah, that's where it started, and that's where it built from.
That's a phenomenal practice. When did you start that?
Fourth grade.
Seriously?
I did, because I grew up in a house where, my father was in prison. My mom, she was swirling around in her own addictions because she was being physically abused by my stepfather. We didn't have food, at home. Our utilities were constantly getting cut off. So if I was constantly looking at my surroundings and where I live, I would be a very depressed person. But I love to laugh. I love to dance. I love to have fun. And I noticed that those feelings would take my joy away from me.
Yep.
And so I started finding outlets and creating spaces for me to be able to experience those places of joy. And for me, that was at school. At school, nobody knows what's going on at home. The food's free at school. So I was going to eat. The lights were connected. And for half of my day, I got to live in joy. Where the other half, even though it was dark, I always looked forward to that next part of the day where I was able to live in light and joy.
Amazing. So when you are as young as you are, and you've been to 4 Olympics, that you've literally spent, half your life, if not more, either training or being in the Olympics. Like you're an Olympian.
Yeah.
And you're not a one-time Olympian. Like you've been doing that. That's been your life.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, because I know this happens with a lot of people in a lot of different professions, military especially, but especially with athletes. It's kind of that next phase.
Yes.
What does that look like? And how are you thinking about that when, the Olympics are, something that you'll look back on now fondly, but there's new chapters to be written?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. When you start taking time out of your day to schedule what makes your heart smile, you discover who you are. You discover yourself and your passions. And I think that if you don't take that time, when you end up leaving the sport or military, you don't understand that next step, who you are, what fuels you, and what identity you have outside of sports. And so I've been retiring since 2008. And like it gave me a lot of time to think about what my next step would be. But throughout that process, I discovered me and I discovered my passions. And literally what I'm doing right now and talking to you about my life experiences and hoping that you could glean a little bit of wisdom or apply it into your own life, that's what brings me joy. And so for me, my next step is doing this every day, talking to groups, motivating, inspiring. I have a TEDx talk coming up in January. And then
Nice.
And then the book, the story that I just shared with you about the soccer coach shooing me off the field. I think that a lot of young people are really, really struggling. Their life, they've had the 2008 market crash, the housing crisis, the employment crisis, civil unrest, racial tension, and COVID. And so just starting to find a way to give them those coping mechanisms early on. So I'm writing the book, and then I'm transitioning into the business world. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And there's no doubt that the success that you've had as an Olympian is going to continue. It's just going to take a different form, and that's exciting. So we're going to go into some Q&A because I know that people are dying to ask Chaunte questions. So whatever you would like to know about how you become a four-time Olympian and how you overcome and all the incredible things that Chaunte has done, get in line. But we are going to go to my main man, Scott Garber, who survived a grisly encounter recently. So.
Wow.
Chaunte, I mean, first off, I am so moved by your story. I mean, I talk to Scott quite often, and he refers to you and your journey. I think it's just, I mean, it's an example of how we should be, leaning into something we love, but also taking time back to reflect on ourselves, right? Because sometimes we lose sight of what we're doing it for. As a former punter, I spent a lot of time, I think, sort of similar to you, you're training with yourself, right? And so there's a lot of soft skills that we develop as athletes that they're not one-to-one as we transition, but I'm curious, as you reflect back on your times of training up to the Olympics and the actual games, which one of those skills do you feel like are going to help you as you start to migrate into the business world?
I think that, and it sounds so cliche, but it's goal setting. And I think that people set goals, but I don't think a lot of people understand how to do it properly. And so when I think about goal setting, I think of a big, massive goal, like going to the Olympics or becoming a CEO or, getting a promotion. You think of that as the big, massive goal. But getting up to that point, there should be a measurable, small goal so that you could monitor your progress towards it. And there should be a time limit. There should be an expiration date on that goal. And so someday is a killer. Like, I'll do it someday, I'll start someday, I'll get there someday. And you really have to have that date and that stamp on that goal. And so I think that goal setting, no matter what it is, if it's with my kids, I want to spend more time with them. Well, how much time is that? Is it an hour a day? Is it this, that? How are you going to measure yourself against that goal? So 100% goal setting.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much. That's a great answer.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you, Scott.
Yeah. First of many, hopefully.
Yeah.
Chaunte, tell everybody about, I think it was the bar that you set up in your bedroom. Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Tell everybody about that. I think that's such a cool story.
All right. So it started with a piece of tape. I wanted to break the American record in the high jump. And so in high school, I started out by putting a piece of tape at the American record for college. I didn't get it. So I was like, well, we're going to have to move the tape up. And we moved it up to the American record for the country. And I would look at that height every single day. Like, it was the first thing I could see. When I woke up in the morning, it was right out of my doorpost, so that every time I passed it, so I would get familiar with how high that height was. And when I actually did get the American record and broke it, the bar company sent me this stick to be able to put the American record up, and I broke it 2 more times. So then I put this bar in the place of the piece of tape, and I was able to do it 2 more times.
I love it. That visualization, I think, is key when you're trying to go after a big, audacious goal.
Absolutely. You have to know how you learn. And like, I'm a visual learner. And so being able to see it helps me believe that I could actually do it. And I was convincing myself and building a case for it every single day. Like, that's not high. I could do that. That's easy.
I love it. We are going next to New York. Mary, who's the Chief People Officer at Fidelis.
Hi there, Chaunte. So great to meet you and hear your inspiring story. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So I would love to hear the positive things you schedule in your day, like some examples. And the second is, how would you advise an adult who is in a continual victim mentality about their circumstances, their life, and completely just mired in that and has been for years? Like, where would you tell somebody to even start?
Okay, so I'll start with the first question. I dance. So, I mean, and not like good dancing. Like, I love to dance badly. And when nobody's looking, like, and I do it when nobody's looking. I go in the garage. I have mirrors set up in my garage, and they were like IKEA cheap $10 mirrors, but they're on the wall, and I just dance like nobody's looking because nobody is, and it makes me so happy. I also make my kids dance for their food because I like watching them dance. So, and I record them sometimes, and I just have moments where I don't take myself so seriously. You know, sometimes when you're speaking in a corporate setting, you have to be buttoned up and you don't get to relax. And so I create atmospheres where I can act like I'm 4 and it's okay. And then for the constant victim mentality, I actually see this a lot. Self-talk. So you could, for instance, I could say, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't make the Olympic team. There's no way I could do it. There's no way I could train. There's no weight room that's open. COVID's happening. And it's great to write all those things down, all the reasons why you can't. But for every one reason that you can't, you need to have 5 reasons that you can. And I started making my daughter do this because she would come home from school and it started with negative things that she's, oh, the teacher was just mean and da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. And she was going on, and I listened because I didn't want her to feel like her feelings weren't valid. They are valid. But there's the big but. There is a solution and a way around every single problem. And if you take other people and situations out of the equation, all that's left is you. And when you could look at that and accept it, and it helps to write it down because it's objective. You can't like, and write it in pen, and you see it and you can't erase it. And you're like, this is the problem, but these are the solutions. And if you can't find the solutions yourself, groups like this, where you have trusted advisors and people that you know that genuinely want your success, then ask them, hey, can you help me find a solution to this problem? But you got to hold yourself to it. And you have to let go of your excuses because it's hard. They're like a comfort blanket. It makes you feel like the world is against me and this is why I can't do it. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. There are people who have done more with less. And that's what I had to learn. And so I hope that helps.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
First of all, I would not believe Chaunte about bad dancing. I don't think that's even possible. And if you want to see good dancing, go to YouTube, you'll find plenty of videos of Chaunte dancing. And it's joyful. You can see the joy that it brings you. If you want to see bad dancing, just, we'll do that at the launch party next month.
Yeah.
We are going to California. We're going to Chad next.
Yes, my birthplace.
Riverside represent.
Yes.
Chaunte, yeah, no, this is awesome. Wow, it's pretty cool just to see all this come full circle. I grew up in northern Los Angeles and actually with Alicia Johnson and Allison Felix.
Oh my
so wow,
gosh.
it's pretty cool. And one thing that's resonates, and reading a couple articles that you were a part of, and with your diagnosis, you had mentioned your first thought was there's no way I'm leaving my kids without a mother, and then your second thought is there's no way I'm leaving my kids without a mother. It's pretty cool. And I know Alicia, she was part of this whole motherhood movement, the flower power. Can you speak to that a little bit? And just I know we've had Brandy Chastain on here, and she had mentioned in that time frame, women would hide pregnancies to get through it, and now it's like something that is being exhibited. Can you talk about that? Because I think it's very powerful.
Yeah, I think I was probably one of the first. So my daughter is 14 now, and so I think I was probably one of the first women in that movement to actually have a pregnancy in return, because the expectation is, number one, you don't have the baby, which, you know, Sonia Richards Ross talked about in her book, or number two, you have the baby and don't come back. And I felt like it was a defiance, where it was like, first of all, I'm having a baby. Our bodies were made to do this. I'm not injured. I can come back. And just having an amazing support group around me that was able to come by my side. And, you know, I nursed for a whole year. So my husband would bring the baby to practice. I would have to shower in between sets. I would nurse the baby and then give the baby back to him, and I would train. And it was hard, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but I made it through. Moms are resilient, we're strong, we're able to do that. For me, I was also a Nike athlete. So I grew in that process. My experience was a little bit different, where I felt that it was okay. I had a little bit of a boldness to have those tough conversations with them. And I faced them head on and telling them exactly what it was that I needed. And I think that comes from, number one, knowing what I needed, and number two, going so long in my life without having it. And I think that, you know, before I was a mom, I was afraid to speak up for what I needed. I knew what it was, but I was afraid to speak. Once I became a mom, there was too much on the line. It was like, look, I need to get back to the Olympics. I need to train. And in order to do so, I need to make sure that I'm not losing my house. I need to make sure that I could feed myself so I could feed my baby. And they respected that and they responded to that. So I've had 3 kids under Nike as a Nike athlete. I've been with them since 2005, and I was never dropped. I respect what Alicia went through, and I respect what Allison went through. And I think that that's why it's so important to learn how to use your voice and say what you want and say what you need. And I was so proud of them for taking those bold and terrifying steps to advocate for mothers. And the industry has changed because of what they did. And so I think it's beautiful that that they were able to be part of that. And even though my experience was different, I think it's because I'm a little bit more bullheaded. Like, no, this is what I need. And if it's not going to be you, it's going to be somebody else. So, yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you for your question. Hug,
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. We are going to Pennsylvania. Tyler, you're up with
Wow.
Chaunte.
Hey, thank you, Scott. And Chaunte, so nice to meet you. So my question kind of goes along with Scott's. So going back to goals and really tying together business and sport, because the parallels are incredible. So obviously, when you're training for the Olympics, you're looking at a goal that's 4 years away. So besides visualization and seeing that tape in your room every day, what's your best piece of advice on setting that goal that is so far away? And then also, what does that process look like for keeping your eye on that goal and really staying disciplined to achieve what you're looking to?
Yes, I love this question. So for me, we have the Olympic Games every 4 years. However, in the interim, there's the U.S. National Championships. That's probably why I racked up so many, because that was my short-term goal. They happen every single year. Then the World Championships happened every 2 years. Then the Indoor World Championships. So I had small interim goals that were all leading toward the Olympics. So I knew if there was a likelihood that if I was in a great shape to win the national championships, then I would more than likely make the world championship team. If I made the world championship team, then I can get a medal. If I medaled, then I could start looking at breaking records. And every little step was something that had value to me, and I could feel proud and have pride about it. But at the same time, it was getting me towards my overarching goal. And I think that even in business, if there is a large goal, there's going to be checkpoints along the way that could make you excited. So if you want to be the CEO, but you're in the mailroom right now, you know, then the next goal will be, okay, let's get out of the mailroom. And then let's get here. All right, now let's go to, let's do night classes at this college, because it's going to qualify me for my next position.
Go potty. Go potty.
Go potty.
Go potty.
Somebody's taking their dog out. So we hope the dog goes potty too, but
yeah, so you just have like, once again, I can't stress enough those measurable goals, but some of the techniques that I used to keep on track for those goals and keep them top of mind. Like I said, that piece of tape, I saw it every day. And it wasn't just a piece of tape. There was writing on it that said American record, the distance, and the date I wanted to do it. And then I had a journal. I don't have it in here, but a journal where I wrote the trials that I was going through, my progress towards my goals. And then I had an accountability team, people that were aware of all my checkpoints that would I could kind of bounce things off of, but they would also be there to help me review if I made my goal or if I missed the mark. And if we missed the mark, how do we get back on track? And I think probably one of the greatest things that people may or may not utilize enough is having a target person. So if there's something that you want to do and there's somebody else who's already done it, I think that it's great to think outside of the box, but sometimes get right in that box, because if they know exactly what it takes to get there, it'd be insanity to believe that if you do exactly what they do, you can't get similar results. And I exclude health from that. That's something different. But other than that, when it comes to performance, I definitely think that that's something that is a powerful tool. For me, I had a training partner. I picked the school because my coach trained the former American record holder in the high jump. So I had that target right on there when I first met her. And she pulled me up to a level of competition that I don't think I would have gotten to had I not been able to be in her presence. So definitely, if you could find somebody to buddy up against or, to kind of drag you along, definitely do so. I know I talk a lot, but.
No, that was great. So it sounds like a lot of micro goals that are kind of aligned to that bigger goal. It's accountability partners, and it's having those other people that are in your life that are going to push you to that next level. Does that kind of summarize it nicely?
Push and pull you. So push you, like the people that push are the ones that support you, but the people that pull you are the people who are where you want to be.
I love that. I saw a lot of people taking notes. So thank you so much for that advice.
You're welcome.
So you touched on accountability partners, which I think is huge and often underutilized, or sometimes people pick the wrong person because that person is really not going to give them the candid feedback. Do you have a criteria that you set for finding those people that are going to hold you accountable and that, maybe are going to get you to train on those days that you just don't want to train as hard as you normally do?
Absolutely. It's always going to be the people that inspire you. So if there's somebody that leaves you feeling irritated or belittled, or because there are those people, I see you laughing, Catherine, but they leave you feeling irritated and belittled and uninspired or frustrated, those are not the people that you're going to want to be in your support group. But if there's people that they have a special way of connecting with the way that you think, that gets you to move from where you are into action, and they foster a positive learning environment or a positive I don't know a better way to say it, a learning environment that will cause you to want to do it, but then at the same time be enough no nonsense to kind of call you out if you're slacking out on it, but in a way that pushes you towards your goal versus making you want to hit them with a wet noodle, Right. So that would definitely be my criteria. And then somebody who does what they say. Like, yep. You don't want to partner up with somebody who's flaky or inconsistent or tends to fall off when things get difficult. Can they handle remaining calm under pressure? Can they see the bigger picture? You don't want somebody that's going to micromanage. You want somebody who could see the bigger picture and the overall goal. Are they flexible? And sometimes it takes a little bit of searching, but those people do exist, and they might already exist in your life. Who do you call with, how if you have problems, you call different people? So I have 5 sisters. So if I want to talk trash about somebody, I call one sister, but Like if I'm wanting to take on a new endeavor, I call another sister. And if I want to know what's going on with the Kardashians, I call a different sister. So, but you probably already know who those people are in your life.
Yeah, definitely. One unbelievable accountability partner that's on this call today is Robert Hamilton Owens. If you ever want somebody to tell you the truth and call you out on your, you know what, RHO is the guy to do it. We are going to your new home state, Florida, to Jason.
Hey, Chaunte, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. So I had the pleasure of chatting with you last April on the conversations with, and I just love, I was very impressed with not only the work ethic and your wake up at 4:30 a.m. ridiculous routine, but obviously your mental aspect, the pros in each situation right after COVID hit and that mentality. But one of the things with your infectious personality and how you seem like you want to please and make people happy. So it's one thing from a mental aspect for yourself, but how do you go about, solving problems, for those, very selfless folks like my wife as well. She's somebody that's always like thinking about other folks. How do you go to bed at night, right? When you can solve a problem, it's one thing when you can look at, yourself in the mirror, right? And say, I can list these positives and solve it. How do you kind of wrestle with that and or help? Because obviously you can't solve everybody's problems. So, keeping that mentality to be supportive, but yet being able to shift your focus back on kind of what you can control.
Absolutely. There was a time period where I was so inundated with the world's problems and trying to solve everybody's problems that my husband was telling me he felt like he was losing his wife because I wasn't mentally and emotionally there because my mind was going trying to figure out everyone else's problems. And once again, I had to learn how to compartmentalize, and I had to take on one problem at a time and schedule that in. Like having a schedule, I can't stress that enough for the other athletes that are on here. They could attest that you have to have an appointed time when you do things, and you have to have times when you turn things off. So I have a bedtime. And at that time, you could text me, call me, tweet me, LinkedIn me, inbox. I will not answer you unless it's my mom and she calls 3 times. Like it's not happening. And I do that because there was a time period where I'd be in the bed texting and writing things down and not listening and being engaged with my husband, but that is his scheduled time. Like, from 8:30 to whenever, that is his time. That's time for him. And I have my time for my kids. I don't schedule anything when they come home from school. Like that is their time. But when they're gone, I can do whatever I want from 4:30 to 3:30. And that's where I think it's really important. If you schedule it in and then and if she wants to solve people's problems, make it like a checklist. So one thing at a time. And then when that's finished, then she can move on to the next thing, but it really needs to fit within that time slot. Because sometimes she's going to have to say, I don't have time. And I think I really, really understood this when I was going through chemotherapy. I was homeschooling my daughter, which was hard. I was training for the Olympics. And there were certain people that just wanted stuff from me. Can you come over here and do this? Can you come? I'm like, do you know I am literally holding it together here? And there's some people that are just takers. And when you realize who are the takers in your life, you kind of have to compartmentalize and sort out your team. And sometimes you have to let the takers go.
That's awesome advice. I think particularly not just for my wife or other folks like you, but for so many people out there today that are wrestling with that. So thank you. And I also love to dance. And don't think you're out of the Olympics yet, because 2024, there's breakdancing coming. So you might be able to get there. Yes. So, all right.
I didn't know that.
Thank you.
We'll have a Florida dance off between Jason and Chaunte. Yeah, Jason, you're in trouble. I'm sorry. You're in serious trouble. So Chaunte, you are like a physical specimen. You are just you obviously take your health so seriously. And a friend of mine, Jesse Itzler, always says, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And you can be a billionaire, but if you have a scratchy throat, like that's all you're thinking about is that scratchy throat and how to get rid of it. So I think achievement in business, sports, whatever, can be enhanced by a healthy lifestyle. And if you don't know what I'm talking about Chaunte being a physical specimen, like take a look at some pictures of her abs. Like she has, like a normal human being doesn't have that many abs. So I don't know about how that happened, but that's crazy. What would be a tip that you could give like average people that you feel like could enhance their health and wellness? Because I do think it just plays a role in every aspect of your life.
So obviously it's going to start with exercise and diet, but I have a little bit of a spin on it. So when it comes to exercise comes in so many different forms. But if you could figure out the physical activity that you actually like doing and do that as a form of exercise. So that's why Zumba is so popular, because for people who like to dance, but they might not like doing burpees and sit-ups, then they can get 30 minutes to an hour of doing that exercise that they like. That's why Peloton is so popular, because people like the atmosphere of competing against other people, getting encouraged, watching videos, they like being part of that community. But for me, I sometimes if I don't feel like running, I skate, I rollerblade. That's the Cali in me. If you could figure out that physical activity that you actually love, do that. If it's swimming in the beach, if it's triathlons in Alaska, that's not mine. Whatever it is, just figure out a way to get your heart rate up. You want to get your heart rate up, you want to sweat, you want to do it for a sustained period of time, and you want to do it consistently. That's what exercise is. It doesn't necessarily have to be burpees and sit-ups, like I said before. And then when it comes to your diet, there's a positive and a negative aspect to your diet. So one thing that I've learned from going through breast cancer myself is that I hung my hat on all the things I didn't do. Like I don't drink and I don't do this and I don't do that. And I'm focusing on the negative, what I don't do. I was not paying attention to the positive. I wasn't paying attention to what I was putting into my body that actually fought cancer cells. I didn't eat a lot of vegetables, so believe it or not. I drank water, but I didn't eat a lot of, carnivorous vegetables, the broccoli. I didn't eat cauliflower. I couldn't stand tomatoes. And so now I understand that when you think about your diet, you don't only want to take out the things that you know are unhealthy for you, but you want to put a huge emphasis on the things and the foods that fight and kill disease, cancer, sickness, and bring your body to total health. So when you have those three components, your exercise, fueling your body, not even just for performance, but fueling your body with what it needs to kill disease and sickness, and then also eliminating those things that sickness, cancer, disease love to thrive in. And so that is my biggest advice. And if you love doing something as far as a physical activity, you're going to do it a lot more. And then it's worth it to find what you like to eat that falls into those healthy categories, because you don't want to eat a ton of tofu and green beans if you can't stand tofu and green beans. Try spinach, try cauliflower, try broccoli, try asparagus, Brussels sprouts, whatever it is. Be a taste tester of amazing healthy foods before you give up and say it's not for me.
Great advice. So we have time for one more question, and we are going to Jervis.
Jervis.
Hey, Chaunte. Sorry, I'm on my phone today. You've been amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. And you've shared so many awesome things: resiliency, self-talk, talking about motherhood. I want to sort of shift these questions back to the business conversation and ask you if you could just take one of these concepts to an employer and say, this is what you need to do for your people. in order to improve outcomes for them, what would you recommend to employers to do to help them take better care of their people?
Oh, I want to say service, because I think that's like the answer that everybody wants to hear. But I think that I'll make it two parts. Number one, leading by example. I think that so many times there's bosses, managers, CEOs that they have a very clear vision of what they want from their employees, but they don't model it themselves. And so I think that even with your kids, you'll say, don't do this, don't do that, but they're going to do what you do, not what you say. And so I think that as employers, if we could model that behavior for our employees, and then figure out ways to differentiate what you're trying to get them to do. And I think like in the educational space, teachers are told to differentiate their curriculum. Not everybody's going to be exactly the same. And if you only have one option or one path to getting where you want your employees to be, there's going to be a higher failure rate. And so for my coach, he would always, whenever he had a new concept that he wanted me to learn, if I didn't get it, he didn't just keep yelling louder and louder, because I wasn't getting it. He understood that there's something that he was trying to relay to me that I was not able to conceive in my brain to force my body to do. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I was having a hard time with focus when I first started. I was looking to the left, looking to the right, looking everywhere. And so my coach started throwing shoes at me when I was jumping, and he would want me to still make the bar. And it was a way for me to say, no matter what, even if there's shoes flying at me over here or over there, I still have to focus enough to get over this bar. And it helped. And the other thing he would do, I didn't want to throw my head back when I high jumped. And if I'm up like this, it's counterproductive to me trying to jump. So I needed to throw my head completely back in order to be able to get a perfect arch with my body. He would stand behind the pit and hold up 3 fingers or 2 fingers or 1 finger and say, how many fingers did I hold up? So even if I made the bar, if I couldn't tell him how many fingers I held up, he didn't care. And that was him differentiating the way that he taught me the concept to make sure that I got it. And just because he did it with me didn't mean he did it with the next high jumper. And so that's what employers have to learn how to speak the language of your employees, I guess.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing. So an hour goes by pretty quick and we are out of time. But Chaunte, I wanted to thank you. Every conversation is a joy. It's an honor to talk to you. And as a community, how can we serve you? And how can we support you? And where can we find you?
Yes. So this is really quick and simple. I have a lot of organizations that reach out to me for breast cancer fundraisers, and they want me to be able to take part, but they generally do not have the budget. So I've decided to launch something this year that for certain organizations that reach out to me and book me to speak, I will allow a speaking event to be gifted to a breast cancer organization, because my heart is that I want to be able to speak and contribute and go to these events. And so if you know an organization that's looking for an inspirational speaker, some C-suite coaching, reach out to me. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, much more LinkedIn now than Instagram. And I'd love to hear from you. And that's pretty much how you can help. I just want to get the messages to those who need it most.
Well, we said it in New York last time. I'll say it again. We love you, Chaunte. You're absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining us. Everybody, I appreciate you guys carving out an hour of your day. I know that I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure you did too. So thanks again for joining us. I hope everybody has a terrific day, and we will talk to you next time, October 12th. We'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chaunte.
Thanks, Chaunte.
Thank you.
That was
Thanks, Carmen.
beautiful.
Thank you
That was
so
awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
And good vibes for the week.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Chaunte. Oh my goodness.
Thank you for my gift. It was so amazing.
Well, you can cut up a lot of vegetables. Those are the sharpest knives. They're dangerous.
I need it because my knife is so dull, the one that I have now. So it was like right on time. And I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you. And
Oh my
just thank
goodness.
you with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks. What's going on the rest of the day for you?
So my daughter has a volleyball game. She's super nervous because they moved her from middle school to high school varsity.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And how old is she?
She's just turned 14, so she's 8th grade.
Yeah.
And she's very, very nervous about it. And so she doesn't play to her potential because she doesn't believe that she belongs there. So
right.
Convince her that she does belong there.
Interesting. So is that her sport?
Yes. So that is her only sport for right now. Well, no, she does track too. She does track reluctantly.
Yeah. Any of them high jumpers?
She is an amazing high jumper. She broke their school record last year and she just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. And Mario's doing well?
He is. So he's competing for the Masters Championships. So he's doing really, really, really well. He finished 2nd last year in the nation for his age group.
Wow.
Yeah. So hopefully this year he could win.
Amazing. And what's your training regimen look like now? Is it at all similar or?
No, right now I'm in the off season. So I have 2 more weeks of doing whatever I want, but like, I don't want to feel that pain. So I've already started like rollerblading and doing a little bit of mileage. So just kind of pre-training.
Now, will you compete again at all?
Will I do what?
Will you compete again at all?
I will. So I might have a competition in New York. So if I do, I'll let you guys know.
Oh my goodness. You have to let me know.
It might be in the
absolutely.
Yeah.
Meg and I will be there in a heartbeat. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. You have no idea.
No, thank you for having me. And I love what you're doing here. Keep it up. You are one of the best human beings in the entire world. And so I'm so honored to know you. And I mean it. I truly mean it.
Thank you. I feel the same. I just think you every time, if it's even a like on a post, or if I see something that you posted on Instagram, it's like instant joy.
Same. It's the same.
It's unbelievable. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll talk soon.
And tell Meg I said hi.
I will. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.